Hello there guys, what is going on? Daniel Childs back here again for another show. Felt appropriate ahead of Sunday's game to get an opposition point of view, and that comes from the Man City expert. That is Steven from Esteemed Kompany. I'm sure a lot of you know the Esteemed Kompany YouTube channel. It's been going for a very long time, very successful. And as well, Steven has appeared regularly on the Overlap debate show with other fans, other fan creators. So I'm sure you'll recognize his face from there. And we have a really interesting conversation. We speak about Mateo Kovacic since leaving Chelsea, how he started at Man City, and of course Cole Palmer, his potential, what he's done at Chelsea, how kind of gutted some City fans are, including Steven, that he did leave over the summer, and of course a tactical battle ahead of Sunday's game, Pochettino versus Pep. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please do give this video a like. If you're listening on the podcast feed, please do give us a positive rating review. But let's get into the conversation right now to preview Sunday's game, Chelsea versus Man City. So thank you so much, Steven, for coming on the show. We have kind of two players to speak about in this discussion. One that you got over the summer from Chelsea and one that we got from Man City. Let's start with the one that Man City got, Mateo Kovacic. How are you finding Kova so far at the Etihad?
Sort of mixed bag so far. Actually, he started wonderfully. Genuinely, the City fans were purring because he just fit like an absolute glove alongside Rodri. Genuinely, really, really impressive. Uh, Obviously not quite Gundogan's level, but in terms of like obviously technically excellent and keeps the ball really well, moves it really nicely, just skip past the player. And for 30 million, we're like, yeah, it looks really good. He had a bit of a knock. Then he didn't quite. Ever since he's come back, he's not quite found that form again. Though his last couple of games have been okay. But so far, for the price that we paid for him, he looks like a good player. You know. Obviously, Gundogan was literally one of the best in the world when he left Manchester City, so it's a long way to go to get to that level. But so far, he looks like a good signing. Not a great signing so far, but a good one. But having said that, it's a Manchester City midfielder. Guardiola takes a bit of time, so I've been encouraged with what I've seen, if not blown away.
I know obviously there was a lot of stuff around that Arsenal game where he probably should have been sent off.
Oh yeah,
And,
absolutely. That was ridiculous.
you know, I've never been his biggest fan. I've understood his quality, but I think the reaction, maybe you saw it over the summer, that Chelsea fans were kind of quite happy to let him go. And I guess for City, he's a very technically competent midfielder who isn't going to be relied upon, I don't think, as kind of one of the biggest players at the club compared to when he was at
Yeah.
Chelsea, when he was a regular starter. Is that kind of what you're looking at as a fan? Where it's like, well, for the price, for the role he's probably going to play, it's not the
No,
end of
not
the world.
really. No, the way that's a very simple way of looking at it for me is if Pep Guardiola thinks he can do it, then he probably can. You know, I know that sounds really reductive, but there's an element of you just got to sort of trust the best coach in the world probably ever to judge a midfielder. And if Pep sees something there, I've seen it so many times where I see a player come in and Rodri, for example, like City fans were jokingly, like a lot of City fans, not myself included, were calling him like Plodri after his first season because like he just looked slow and cumbersome, and everyone was like, "All right, we bought this player for 60 odd million, and he's not going to be good enough to replace Fernandinho." And people were saying that after his first season. Look, I'm not saying Kovacic will reach those levels, but the point I'm saying is that Pep sees things in players, and now Rodri's probably potentially the best player in the world right now. The form he's got, it's ridiculous. And so the way I see it is like I don't think Kovacic is coming just to be a good squad player. He might end up being that because that's what he is right now. But I do think that Pep will improve him. I just believe that. I don't think there's anyone like him improving midfielders, and I'm sure in time he'll, I'm not sure that would be a great goal scorer or anything like that, but he'll smooth out those little rough edges. And look, Fernandinho joined Manchester City at 28 before Guardiola was there under Pellegrini, and in his 30s he became one of the best in the world in his position, and he was very good beforehand. That might not happen, but there's no way that Kovacic, after a few years with Guardiola, won't be better. He will be. So that's how I'm feeling about it. So it's not a case of, oh yeah, he's just a squad player. It's actually, to me, well, Pep wanted him, so he could be really good.
With Cover, I think that it's always been that final part of his game that, as you say, maybe Pep can add to it, because he's always been very good within the middle third of the pitch. It's once he gets from a creative point of view to the final third, in terms of his ability maybe to get a shot away at goal, or probably more importantly for Man City is creating a chance or playing that killer pass, and very rarely did we see him operate. But I'm not going to, obviously, you'd be silly to argue against Pep, and in terms of his ability to improve players, you're absolutely right there. And the system and the culture at City is obviously so successful that it's probably going to improve most players, even if they aren't playing every single week. Um, do you suspect he'll, even though he's had some injury problems recently, do you suspect he'll play on Sunday?
With Stones out, I think probably, yeah. It makes a lot of sense as well. He knows a lot. I just don't know how much he knows much about these Chelsea players because it's changed so much. But in general, he knows a lot about Chelsea. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he's been the one out of Nunes and himself, that Guardiola sort of trusted a bit more. I think he'll probably play. It could be Bernardo plays midfield though instead. It could be like plays Bernardo central. Actually, maybe he won't play. Maybe it'll be Bernardo and Rodri with Alvarez ahead of them, Foden on the right, and one of the wingers on the left. So he's got a good chance with Stones out, but it's not guaranteed. I'd probably say it's kind of like 50-50 at the moment.
So Cole Palmer, I believe if I remember rightly, your reaction to that late transfer was one of disappointment, and I guess from my
Despair, to be
point,
honest, mate.
yeah, I mean it was interesting at the time because I'd obviously known about Cole Palmer, I'd seen his potential. He clearly was someone that had a lot of talent, but it was a little bit confusing for me when we signed him because it was like, well, we're buying another wide player here. Is he going
Yeah.
to get lost in the mix at Chelsea? But I mean, where we sit right now, he is one of the most integral players for Mauricio Pochettino. I guess the first question is your general feeling on him departing from Man City. Was it a mistake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mistakes. It depends who you're asking, really. As a fan, yeah, maybe for Man City. We lost Cancelo last season, won the treble. Like with all due respect to Cole Palmer, he's not on the level Cancelo was when Cancelo left. The point I'm making is like a mistake implies something will go wrong. We got Doku and he's become ridiculous. So maybe not for Manchester City, but in some ways yes, in some ways no. Like my reaction was one of a fan basically, and I've been watching Cole Palmer for many years, and I remember the first time I saw him for the under-18s and tall, elegant, the way he was kind of sort of gliding around the pitch, reminded me a little bit of the time of Nasri or someone like that. Just elegant, technical, just the ball just kind of sticks to him, and I've always been really excited for him, and obviously, like he's a local lad as well. So I've always felt like he was ready to just sort of kind of break through, into the first team, and it felt like every time he had a kind of step forward and scored a goal or whatever, he did something special. He got like an injury or didn't play for another 20 games just because he was young and rotation. He never really grabbed that chance. And then last season he was playing on the left a lot for Guardiola. I was like, he's not a left winger. He's many things, but not a left winger. And he was underwhelming a little bit. And some fans were sort of saying he's not good enough, doing that classic thing where they judge a player based on someone entirely different to who they are. And finally, it felt like Mahrez had moved on. Cole Palmer, when he plays on the right, he's just a mini Mahrez. When he's quite tall to be fair, but he's just like very young Mahrez. And I thought he's gonna get his chance here. Then of course he scored that wonder goal against Arsenal in the Community Shield, and he got man of the match in the Super Cup, scoring that as well. I'm like, this is it. It's going to happen. And then we just let him go, and apparently it's because he sort of. You don't demand first team football to Guardiola. You just don't do it. And he's like, "We go then, mate, if you want to." And he called his bluff and he sold him. But for me as a fan, I don't know. It means more when the local lads break through, and I think I was upset because I've been waiting for years, and I know he has the talent. The thing is, it's weird. I don't want to sound patronising because I'm on a Chelsea channel, but I think even you yourself would admit like the City's level right now is much higher than Chelsea's, and Arsenal saw it last season. Like a good Manchester City player could become a great Arsenal player. I mean, Zinchenko and Jesus, turned them into title challengers. And I think I mean this with great respect, but Cole Palmer, he isn't as good as Phil Foden, and he isn't as good as it's a lot of City attackers right now. But he's still a very good player, and he's become one of Chelsea's best players right now. And that's the frustration for me. Is like I know that he can only get better, and he's one he's one of the best players for one of the biggest teams in the league, and he's one of ours. He should be with us still. And I think it's as simple as that because that I just felt very passionately about that. I do think it's important to have these people with this connection, and I do think it's important for the academy to show this route through. And look, we've got Foden, we've got Rico Lewis, and people like that. But Cole is good enough, and every now and then you see a player who is good enough, and they're rare. They really are rare, and I knew he was, and I still know he is. And to see him leave to Chelsea, it felt for me like a kick in the teeth as a fan.
There is definitely that level point you make is absolutely relevant with Cole Palmer, and I think Chelsea fans quickly realised it when he made his first start against Brighton in the cup. You know, he was a standout player that night. He sets up the winner for Jackson. There are another few passes. I've sort of broken it down on my channel. Even the passes that haven't really led to something, he just
Yeah,
is an impactful player. And to be honest, because it's been so low from like a productive point of view for Chelsea's attack for quite a while. I mean, I always felt that to kind of be seen by Chelsea fans as a really good attacker, you didn't have to do tons. It's not to say and try and demean what Cole Palmer has done because he's a very talented player, but like you weren't competing against like Eden Hazard at this, in this current moment at
yeah,
Chelsea
it's not
to
Chelsea.
kind of
Yeah.
improve. But he's already proved to be effective from the penalty spot. He's scored 3 from the penalty spot for Chelsea. But in terms of in possession, one of the things that surprised me about him is his ability more central. Like even if he is starting
Yeah.
out wide on the right, he is, and we're playing kind of this 4-3-3 at the moment. He is kind of coming central. Is that something that is maybe disappointing to you? Is the fact that he could have maybe played that role more for City because he is doing it
Um,
for Pochettino?
Well, we didn't need him to, I guess, because we have the greatest probably ever playing in the Premier League who can play there, De Bruyne. So we were fine with that way. And Foden can play there as well. But he can do it, and I knew he could do it as well because Pep played him there before. He's played him as a false nine before, but only the odd game here and there. But I am surprised he's been given that role immediately at Chelsea, and fair play, he's definitely taken it. I've seen all the comps and so on, and he looks like he's having a cracking time there. I still think he's just as effective on the right as well, and that to me is where I feel like he does a lot of his best work. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like, it would have been nice to have that option. I feel, and I mean this once again with great respect, I feel like the role as a creative player for City these days compared to what Chelsea are right now, like the low blocks that City play against is ridiculous. Like every City it's a little bit harder sometimes to create chances for Man City than other teams because everyone behind the ball. Everyone's behind the ball, and I've watched a few Chelsea games. That hasn't been the case for this season for Chelsea. It will be eventually, but it hasn't been. They've been. It's a little bit more open than the typical City game. So I do think it might be a little bit easier this second to be. Maybe not for the reasons that maybe the quality is not around it, but it might be a little bit easier to play centrally for Chelsea than it is for City because of the expectation and so on. But at the same time, like the passes that he's playing, the quality, they're really nice, and he's got that gifted little kind of. He's got that little. Sounds like hyperbole, but I don't mean this level. But that little curled left foot pass over the top, Messi does it a lot. You know that one. He seems to like doing that little pass, and that's just obviously just of such a high quality that comes from having that technique that he's got, and I do want to see how he develops more. I'd be very curious to see how he deals with that if Chelsea reach the level that you want to be again. How he copes playing centrally. In a top 4 class, if you're playing. Like we'll see how he plays against City when he plays there at the weekend. It'll be interesting to see because Rodri and so on are a different kettle of fish to some of these other sides, and it'll be very interesting to see because I do think he has the talent to do it. It's just obviously he's young still.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the quote there about Messi, but he does remind me a little bit. Well, I think some
You know
people
what
have
I mean
sort of
about
brought.
the passing, by the way, just the passing. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
yeah, yeah,
passing
yeah,
that
yeah.
much.
Of course, of
That
course,
little curl
yeah,
passing
yeah.
as well. Yeah,
I think a lot of people have sort of brought this up that he's kind of what we wanted Kai Havertz to be in the
yeah.
sense of kind of being that floating player that can offer acceleration, that can offer at times play as a centre forward, but also just you said earlier, like try and simplify it. Like he's just effective. He's just an effective player. He makes
Mm-hmm.
things happen on the pitch in different ways, and
Goals,
that's
assists, passes,
yeah,
chances. Yeah.
and that's what makes him so good, and hopefully more to come. Final thing to just ask you here is, I guess, just your feelings ahead of the game and what you think is going to kind of be the big tactical battles.
Yeah, I'm not as anxious about it as I probably would have been in other years just because I don't think Chelsea are fully there yet. But then again, you have the quality, and I do suspect Cole Palmer's going to score or get an assist because that's how life works in football. If John Stones hadn't just been ruled out with injury, I'd be a lot more confident because I think he's truly world class and he's so important to the way that we play tactically. That sort of kind of like centre back stroke quasi 8 thing that he does, which is ridiculous. Like he's so important for us alongside Rodri, and that does leave a sort of hole in the City side. Having said that, I do fancy our chances. I just do. I feel like City should be winning this, and I mean that with the greatest respect once again. But I watched the Spurs Chelsea game. I don't think you came out with that much credit. Even with against 9 men, like I don't think you played that well, and you weren't that great against Brentford. Okay, good point against Arsenal, but I don't know. But then again, you're at home, so we'll see. That's a good midfield you've got there, Renzo Fernandes and Caicedo. Of course, that's obviously where Cole Palmer, Fernandes, Caicedo is a good midfield. If City win the midfield battle, we'll have Rodri, Bernardo, probably Alvarez, then we'll be fine. I don't think you defensively. What have you been like defensively this season? I'm not really paying much attention to your defensive record.
I'd say pretty decent.
Yeah.
He's kind of really settled on a defense, and to be fair, he's only just got Reece James back, but he's playing Levi Colwill at left back. Axel Disasi has come in alongside Thiago Silva. We aren't shipping loads of goals, and we aren't conceding a lot of opportunities. So, from a defensive point of view, I think most Chelsea fans are actually quite happy with what we've seen so far. It's been that kind of classic attacking issue that has been more frustrating.
Yeah, I don't. Even though he's got a hat trick the other day, I don't think Nico Jackson played particularly well that day. Bless him. So it's one of the most underwhelming hat tricks. But he's not. He seems like a talent as opposed to a star at the moment. But you got Sterling and Palmer, the two ex-City lads, and I just don't like that in football. I don't like narratives, because I would not be surprised if they both score. I just wouldn't be, because that's football. What it does. I do back my team because I think we're in decent form right now. And I think we're a little bit more together than Chelsea are right now. And usually this side does step up in a big game. And with Rodri playing, Bernardo Silva in great form, probably some of his best form, Phil Foden flying at the moment. Blessed with Doku or Grealish because they're both in form once again. Haaland will not be 11 goals, 11 games. People arguing about his form, but it's kind of silly. So I think we'll be. I've got to back my team, but I suspect it won't be I don't think it'll be comfortable for City, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I think most would go for City. And to be fair, with where Chelsea are, the fragility and also the quality of City, it's hard to argue. Thank you so much, Steven, for coming on the show. Just a chance for you now to shout out where people can find your work, your great work regarding City online.
Cheers, man. It's my YouTube channel, Esteemed Kompany, company with a K, pun on Vinny Kompany.
I believe you got a website and on the other socials as well.
Yeah, SteveKompany.com, and my Twitter is just Steven Mcinerney. So it's where I spout nonsense about football every single day. So yeah,
no worries. All the links will be in the description box below. Thank you for watching and listening. You can follow me across the socials at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.